Good morning, Kahal Kadosh, Beruchim Abayim to everybody. Today, the second day of Kislev, 5781, the 18th day of November 2020. Today's class dedicated for the Refuah Shelema of Devora bat Rachel, Michael Abraham ben Dalia Miriam, Miriam bat Riva, Jorge Gabriel ben Selma, Simcha bat Esther, Shimon ben Gladys, among all of the Holim of Am Israel. Iratzon, that the Zechut of the Torah, learning, Hashem should send them Refuah Shelema. Today's Gemara, Masechet Baba Kama, page 60a and b. I'd like to perhaps give a brief introduction before we actually start from the actual Gemara learning. If we ask you a question, and the question is as follows: what can you tell me about the status of the world today? I'm sure that we all going to agree that the world is going through a tremendous amount of challenges. If it's the, let's say, the political arena in the United States today, anti-Semitism regretfully alive and well, the obvious pandemic, now the controversy with the vaccination, financial challenges and crisis literally worldwide. I hope not, but that's what I understand. So we can summarize that the status of the world today is not the way we want it to be or the way we expected it to be even a year ago. But we are about to celebrate Hanukkah 24 days from now, and Be'ezat Hashem, we know the miracle of Hanukkah, when things were getting darker by the minute. Eventually we were able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and Be'ezat Hashem, irrelevant of all of the unfortunate cases or situations rather that I mentioned a few moments ago, we all understand and we believe that this is part of Hashem's master plan. But let's see the Gemara's perspective on challenging moments that affects the entire world. So the Gemara begins, and it says, Amal Rabbi Shimon bar Nehmani, Rabbi Shimon bar Nehmani says, Em pur'anut ba'a la'olam, tribulations or hardships, it comes to the world, bizman shareshaim ba'olam, when there is a certain level of wickedness in the world. Be'ena mathelet ella min asadikim tehila, and when it comes and the consequence of the world is activated, the Gemara writes, begins with the righteous. Shene'emar ki tetze esh umatzea kosim. Pasuk in Perasha Mishpatim. And this refers as follows: if a fire goes forth and finds thorns, ematai esh yotzet, when the fire, meaning the fire of tribulations, goes out, bizman shekosim mesuim la, when the thorns, meaning to say the wicked people, are there. Be'ena matchelet ela min asadikim tehila, but initiates only from the righteous. Shene'emar bene'echal gadish, and it will eat a stack of grain. Be'achal kadish lo ne'emar, the pasuk did not say that the fire will consume, but the pasuk says the stack of grain is consumed. I read this the very literal translation of this verse of the pasuk in Perashat Mishpatim. This pasuk refers how a owner of a house or a field must be careful that when he's working with fire, for example, making a barbecue, and suddenly you throw lighting fluid and use a mega flame, and that flame sparked all over and spread and start burning stuff. There is a liability element that the Torah discusses. So with that being said, let me just read an additional commentary in this particular opening statement of the Talmud. So, what can be considered wickedness or wicked people in our days? The truth is that I do not have that answer. The Gemara gave a very generic term, wicked people. Now, there are different levels, God forbid, of wickedness. Some people must have a reinforcement of Shabbat, others in kashrut, others in family purity, others in morality, others in praying and putting on tefillin, others in the field of modesty, others in the way they talk to the spouse, to people, etc. So then you may say, but Rabbi, there is no good people. Everyone has those type of deficiencies spiritually. The answer is that they are good people, they are righteous people, but they are people who don't care at all. They want to do what they want to do, don't tell me what to do, etc. Parallel to that, we can split this Talmudic statement, perhaps, in two parts: the Jewish perspective and the Gentile perspective. From the Gentile perspective, yes, there is goodness to a certain extent in the world. People are generous. People support charities. There is a lot of beautiful programs nationwide for many different areas of society. But without going into the field of politics, perhaps we see in the battleground of the 21st century, so to speak, or the new generation, perhaps I think the name is millennials, I believe that's how they call them, it seems to be a new wavelength of, especially in the field of immorality, that perhaps 1 or 2 generations ago was not part of a rabbi's class or a topic of discussion, but regretfully today, in our days, at this moment I'm saying, there is such a thing as immorality in the world, but not immorality that always existed, but immorality to a lower level and a worse level than the standard mind of immorality it meant 10, 20 years ago. And that is a problem. That is a problem for the entire world, because at the end of the day, society, Yehudim and Goim, are carrying the world on their shoulders. And even though you may say, Rabbi, that's true, but the bulk of the responsibility comes to Am Israel. Of course, I'll be the first one to say that we carry perhaps the responsibility for the well-being of the world. Now, can we change the Gentile aspect of the mind? Obviously, I don't think so. We're not going to try neither. but one thing is we can do. If we reinforce ourselves, that brings additional, let's call it positive forces and kedusha to the world. And the Gemara, a few moments, or rather 2-3 lines, now coming up, it goes and it says the following. Remember when we were in Egypt 3,333 years ago, to be exact? It comes our final night in Egypt. How was the final night in Egypt? Short answer. The Pasuk says, Ve'atem, and you, lo tetzeu ish mipetach beto ad boker. No one should be on the street that night. I remember this Pasuk when we all were home in Pesach. No one was able to leave. So we prayed that day and that night that we say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Borei Olam, this is what you want. You wanted an anchor of what happened when we left Egypt. I personally thought, as many, I believe, based on this pasuk, that the next day or the day after, Mashiach was going to come. Because there is no better time in history that Hashem is cloning whatever happened the night in Egypt, the last night in Egypt, because we left Egypt the next day. We left it in the morning, during the daytime. But what the pasuk says, no one should be on the street. Curfew. Why not? The Gemara answers, why? Kevan shenitan reshut lamashhit. It says very simple. Once the forces of destruction has been given authority to create damage, eno mabhin ben tzaddik lerasha. Once the power of destruction is given, it takes no prisoners. Whoever is across their way pays the price. So Hashem is giving us an advice. It says the 10th plague, Makat Bechorot, it will be of such a magnitude that is going to carry everything that comes their way. And the Jewish people stayed indoors. And we all know the outcome of the Egyptians. The next morning, we left Egypt. Ubnei Israel Yoseim Beyad Ramah. So we need to understand. We, as I said in the past, we are ambassadors of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We represent the essence of godliness. So therefore, since we are Hashem's ambassadors, even though the Gentiles of the world may be at fault in part for acting or behaving in a way that is beneath the principles of the Torah, including for the Goim. And I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. From the Halakha perspective, from the Torah perspective, the same gender relationship. And we can throw into the equation the concept of abortion is not only a Jewish prohibition, is a humanity prohibition. But it is important also to know the following. And I'm going to say it, and I hope that is delivered the way it's written. For Goim to be able to act in a certain way, that can only happen if we open the doors for them. For example, anti-Semitism. How ugly and unpleasant and wrong anti-Semitism is. What tools do we have to fight anti-Semitism? Okay, you're going to do a protest with flags? Okay, and I ask you a question. How did that work out for us? I don't think it did. It actually, God forbid, I don't want to open up my mouth, but if you just follow just the Jewish news, you hear regretfully anti-Semitism alive and well. And I hope that it expires very, very soon. But you want to know the antidote for anti-Semitism? It's very simple. Unity and harmony among the Jewish people. I like to make it easier for everybody. Unity, harmony, and love in our families. I'm going to make it even easier. Unity, harmony, love, and respect between husband and wife. You may say, Rabbi, come on. You're going to tell me because I have an argument with my wife or she has an argument with me, I'm supporting anti-Semitism? The short answer is, from a spiritual perspective, yes. Where do we learn that from? From the title or the name of the husband and the name of the wife. Ish be'isha, husband and wife. The Gemara writes, Ish be'isha zachu, shechina sheruya benehem. Literally, if the husband acts like a husband and the wife acts like a wife, zachu. What's the meaning of zachu? Zachu not only means zechut of they have married. Zachu is like when you say an aliyah and people bid, what do you say? Zacha. Zacha means he won the bid. You know what did they win? A couple that has shalom between them, a family that has peace and harmony between them. You know what they won? God's presence in their home. God's presence in their life. This is not me saying this. This is a very clear Gemara. Ish be'isha zachu, shechina sheruya benehem. Godliness dwells with them. So I ask you a question with all this being said. What allows tragedies, God forbid, and let's separate tragedies and death. And I apologize in advance for using a word that is usually not part of our vocabulary or Torah learning class, but this is something that I need to say it, so this way there is a better understanding of the message of the Gemara. The ultimate passing of the person, that's God's departments. Hashem has his calculations, tikkunim, reincarnations, complicated topic that we don't know exactly how it works. But the rest, we can prevent. We have the power by our own behavior, by our own chesed. You know, the pasuk says, Olam chesed ibaneh. The world is built with kindness. You know what it means? That every time we perform an act of kindness, we are removing a shade of darkness. We are removing one step of darkness. And the more good deeds and the more chesed and the more proper behavior and respectful behavior and love and harmony, as I said before, and respect with between people, guess what? Gradually, that brings more goodness into the world. And the more goodness comes into the world, the more the darkness dissipates from the world. Yes, we're not going to change the world. But you know what? I'm not trying to change the world. I'm trying to change myself. Me, myself, and I. I'm not even trying to change you. You happen to be listening to today's class. Beautiful. Hazak. Or you want to get a sense of Florida. When you see me and you see the water, you see the water, you see the sunshine here for you to look a bit. You see the beautiful water, green, nice weather. I hope I'm not making anybody jealous. Just if you're going to come to Florida, make sure to register to come to the synagogue, etc. But let's go on a more serious note. To change the world, we know that it's not easy for us to do. But one thing is for us to do and try to do, improve ourselves, change ourselves. And guess what? Once we start with ourselves, doesn't stop by us. It goes into our marriage. It goes into our family dynamics. It goes into our children. And guess what? That change, that positive change, became multiplied several times. And as I said before, the better our behavior and our relationship are, and I quoted these two examples, behavior and relationship, because I believe, personally speaking, with Hashem's help, obviously, that if we improve our spiritual behavior and we act in a better way, in a more respectful way, in a more positive way, guess what? We are changing the world remotely from wherever you are. Why? Because each person is a world by itself. This is the first part of the Gemara. The Gemara brings additional messages of how to deal in a moment of a plague. This is today's menu. Right away, I say the word plague, COVID, pandemic, vaccination, conspiracy theories, social distancing, hand washing, hand sanitizing, toilet paper, gloves, masks. Relax. Let's see how the Gemara deals with this topic. Le'olam, before we go to that plague, because that's the next two lines, I like to go 2 lines back. The Gemara writes, Le'olam ikanes adam bechi tov, beyese bechi tov. A person, when they're traveling, should always come in to an inn or to a hotel during the daytime, beyetse bechi tov, and leave also during the daytime. Shene'emar, as the pasuk says, Be'atem lo tetzeu ish mipetach beto ad boker. Don't go out till the morning. Why? Because the night of Pesach, the 10th plague was activated. Now, let me explain this a bit better and clearer so there is no misunderstanding. And in order to understand this Gemara, we need to go back perhaps 1800, 2000 years to understand how was traveling back then. The traveling of yesteryear has nothing to do with the traveling of today. Today, you can fly. Today, you can drive. You have lights, you have highways, you have roadways. So, Baruch Hashem, the system is upgraded. But in the time of the Talmud, things were completely different. Traveling was dangerous. Traveling today is also dangerous, but not with the danger of those days that people knew when they left and they never knew if they will be coming back, because the roadways were full of challenges. If it's condition of the roadways, wild animals, criminals, who knows, prosecution. Today, traveling, it's in a certain way a bit better than then. So imagine yourself, you're traveling through the night, and you don't know what kind of situation you may expect. So therefore, the Gemara writes, when you arrive to a city, arrive during the daytime, so you're able to settle and become familiarized with your surroundings. When you're going to leave a city, wait till sunrise, so you can travel with a certain peace of mind and be on the defensive and be aware of everything that is going on around you. Very beautiful Gemara. From this pasuk, we have a tradition when it comes to the concept of the Sefer Torah reading. that we also say, Le'olam ikanes adam bechi tov, beyeseh bechi tov. In English, it will mean that when a person gets an aliyah, the pasuk should begin with something positive, something good, and the aliyah should finish with something positive and something good. This tradition in the Sefer Torah, it's observed by the Syrian community, by our community. If you go to a regular Sephardic synagogue, they will do the usual quotes based on the Chumash. In the Syrian world, the quotes are way different. Why? Because of this particular Gemara. Not that the other quotes are wrong, Haz v'Shalom, but there are specific quotes that our community has that enables this Gemara to be activated. Now, the next line of the Gemara talks about a plague in a city. Dever Ba'ir. Before I go into the actual Gemara, as I'm saying this, a thought crossed my mind. Yes, we know that the word Dever is a plague. Now, what other word do we have from Dever? I'm sure you know the answer. Dibur, speech. Perhaps, and this is a thought of mine, in the sense of I did not see this in writing anywhere, I believe, and I hope that what I'm saying is accurate, and if it's not, hatati aviti pashati, but perhaps there is no coincidence that the Talmudic language for a plague is actually dever. Why dever? Why dever? I mean, why the word dever? Perhaps a plague can be activated by the speech of the person. So if the speech of the person can activate a plague, the proper speech or the lack of speech maybe can reverse the plague. I want these words to sink into our mind, into your mind, into everybody's mind. Now, a person may say, Rabbi, I don't speak Lashon Hara. If you don't speak Lashon Hara, I'm so proud of you. I'm very, happy to hear that. But do you text Lashon Hara, maybe? Do you post Lashon Hara? What about in the synagogue? Do you speak during Tefillah, during Sefer, during Kaddish, during Hazara, during Birkat Kohanim? If you don't do none of the above, Tabo Alecha Beracha, Tabo Alayich Beracha, may you bless from the heaven. And I'm not, God forbid, not believing that they are good people, Baruch Hashem, that they are careful. But the reality of life is that many people are not. So maybe the word plague is the answer to our problems, is the solution to the pandemic. Yes, we know that through speech, the pandemic or the virus can become more activated, which I'm not kidding in what I'm saying. There are different levels of speed or distance. That's the reason why we wear a mask. Why do we wear a mask? So make sure that whatever comes from my mouth is not absorbed by another person. That's why the best way is to have two people wearing a mask. And you minimize tremendously, the possibilities. That's when you speak. And it goes higher if you sing, if you scream, or if you sneeze. Those are 4 different levels of distancing. That's why you do 6 feet. That's the maximum reach on a normal tone of speech. If you raise your voice, it's higher. If you sing, it's higher. And if you sneeze, I believe it's even higher. So maybe, and this is me saying this, if each and every one of us takes upon ourselves how to be careful with the dibur, maybe the dibur is the tikkun of the dever. Take it or leave it, is up to you. Let's see what the Gemara writes. Dever ba'ir, if there is a plague in the city, kanesak lecha, go home, stay home. This is a headline news, 2020, almost 2021. Says the Gemara, go home, stay indoors. The Maharal and others say, leave the city if you can. But the reality of today is that where the person can go. Okay, so some people go to this part of town, that part of town, different part of the state, but I think that we are all on the same boat. If you're up north, if you're in the west, or you're in the east, or you're in the south. And where do we learn that from? Again, Be'atem lo tetzeu ish mipitach beto ad boker, because there was the plague of the 10th plague, Makat Bechorot. The Torah says, don't leave home till the morning. Ve'omer, and the pasuk writes in Yeshaya, listen to this beautiful pasuk, Lech ami bo b'hadarecha, go my people, enter your rooms. Segor delatecha ba'adcha, close the door behind you. That's in a way what many of us have been doing for a very long time. Yes, we are out of the homes, but even leaving the home, it's already with limitations. We go here, we go there, we avoid going to certain places, etc. So we are adjusting ourselves to the new norm. And the Gemara writes that even though in certain concepts was applicable during the daytime, during the nighttime, but once a plague comes, it doesn't know no time limitation. Could be daytime, could be nighttime. What a powerful Gemara of Masechet Baba Kama on this particular concept. Just 1 second. The Gemara goes even further on this concept. And it says, what about walking on the street? There is a plague, and now you're on the street. What do? So listen what the Gemara says. Tanu Rabbanan, Dever Ba'ir, if there is a plague in the city, Al yahalech adam be'emsa haderech, don't walk in the middle of the road. מפני שמלאך המוות מהלך באמצע הדרכים, because the Yeserara, the executioning angel, so to speak, travels in the middle of the road. בכיוון דהיבה לי רשותה, and once he was given the permission to act, מזגה להדיה, the person, the Yeserara travels, etc. Now, another concept, the Gemara writes, Dever Ba'ir, if there is a plague in the city, Ali kanes adam yahile bet knesset, don't be in the synagogue by yourself. But if there is a minyan, it is permissible. Now, obviously, a lot of the words of the Talmud perhaps require further understanding. But I think that we devoted a great amount of today's class, and I apologize in advance. I didn't realize that I spoke so much in the last few minutes, but I think that the Gemara of today is fully loaded with solutions. Yes, we understand the problem. Yes, we have challenges, as I said in the beginning of the class. If it's the pandemic, now the vaccinations, yes, schools, no schools, gatherings, limitations, lockdown, whatever word you want to use for today. What I'm going to do to change the situation? What can I do? Yosef from Aventura, Florida, or Tembury, the way people call it. What I'm going to do to change the plague? What I'm going to use? More wipes? What I'm going to use? More Lysol? What I'm going to use? More hand sanitizer? All that, whatever. Use it, etc. But we all know very well that whatever is happening in the world, there is a godly element involved with it. We already discussed the elections last week, so we don't have to go back to that topic. But the pandemic seems to be having Tehiyat HaMetim, and scary. All over the numbers are spiking again. Some states already started lockdown. We hope and pray that doesn't reach this level, whatever we may be. But the Metziut is that we are going through challenges. I want to change that. I don't have the knowledge and the funds to discover the solution from a medical perspective. I leave that to the professionals and to the doctors and to whoever, can help. But I know what I can do. I can start fixing, improving, making myself a better version. Like you upgraded your phone the other day, I'm sure you did that. Many people are doing it. You're switching, they give you free incentives, get a high level, the nice cameras, all that is okay. But you know what? I need to upgrade myself, whatever that means. But according to the Gemara that we just learned, Dever, the Dibur, all over, whatever Dibur means. We can throw in kashrut because it has to do with the mouth of the person. And God forbid, sometimes the lack of kashrut not only affects the neshama of the person, but affects the body of the person and leads the person to speak in a way that is not kasher neither. Immorality in the world, we understand that. But you know what? The antidote of that is by us enhancing our purity, our holiness, our godliness, our mikveh observance, our personal holiness in the men's department, and mikveh family purity to the ladies' department. So we all, as a team, we can make an unbelievable amount of effort that from wherever we are, we can take that good deed and start removing one microorganism of the virus. And each one can do something like the lights of Hanukkah. Each night we increase one number. Every day, every week, try every hour, even 1 hour. Start with an hour. 1 hour today, Beli Neder, in honor of the class, in order to reverse whatever is happening in the world, I'm going to try to be more careful. I'm going to think before I speak. Some of us speak before we think, and that's a big challenge for many of us. So Be'ezat Hashem, Kahal Kadosh, if we truly take into heart the magnificent words of today's Perashah, of today's Gemara class rather, I believe that we're going to be able to win the war. We have been, as Yehudim, we have been in worse scenarios. And through our teshuvah and our good deeds, everything was reversed. We have seen it in Egypt, we have seen it in exile, we have seen it in Purim, we have seen it in Hanukkah, we have seen it throughout history, through all the enemies that got up and Baruch Hashem, they are part of human history and no more than that, and we are able to survive. But with today's situation and the challenges, our survival requires reinforcement. It's not just to the rabbis, because regretfully, everybody's paying the price. No one can say, no, it's not affecting me. If it's the greatest hachamim or wonderful people, young and old alike. But Be'ezat Hashem, let's finish the class as the Gemara of today mentioned. Just I'll finish with a quick musar from the Sedar Derech, and everything is divine providence. And allow me to finish the class with this. It says, Midah mimidot hanefesh hatova. It says, one of the most powerful and beautiful elements of the life of the person. It says, begins with halashon, the tongue. And it says in parentheses, dibur, the speech. What kind of speech? It says, number one, lashon harach, soft tongue. I don't mean the physical aspect, but the niceness, the cleanliness, the uplifting, the complimenting way of talking. Ve'akol namuch, without screaming. Umoshlo be'isro be'et ha'kas, and learn how to control your reaction in the moment of anger. Hayecholet be'yadecha. The possibility is in our hands. My dear Kahal Kadosh, I wish everybody to have a beautiful and a meaningful day, and let us hope that the changes that Be'ezat Hashem will be forthcoming from each and every one of us, individually and collectively. Ehad marbeh be'ehad mam'id. Some people can do an hour a day. Some people would like to start with 15 minutes. Guess what? Hazaku Baruch. For 15 minutes, we're going to think before we speak. We're going to be more careful. We're going to say nice things, nothing negative. If you have nothing good to say, say nothing. And have the kavanah that the zechut of this enhancement and improvement in our behavior as Yehudim, not only that Hashem gives refuah shelema and whatever the person needs, but obviously to bring some light into the entire world. And Be'ezat Hashem will be able to see the Yeshuot for all of Am Israel. I wish everybody to have a lovely day, and Be'ezat Hashem will see each other belly nether tomorrow morning at around 9:15. Have a good day.